our BC-7. It works identically with the BC-14 and BC-24. We just want to take you through a first roast to show you how easy it is to roast with this machine, and also following some safety procedures. Before ever roasting with one of these machines, make sure that you watch the video on the safety features of the BC models, and especially the BC-7, 14, and 24, and on the pilot light valve setup and starting, and then you'll be ready to go on roasting with the BC-7, 14, or 24. Just want to let you know we preheated the roaster to its highest setting, which normally we don't do, but that was part of a heat test. You could heat it up to 400, maybe 425, and let it drop down. As you can see, we don't have any gas on this machine, so it's now climbing of its own accord, showing you that the metals are plenty warm enough. So we're going to go ahead and charge the beans into the drum. We're charging the beans into the drum. In this case, we're doing a minimum roast of 2 pounds. And as you can see, the temperature climbed to about 375 of its own accord. We do not have any gas on the unit yet because we had already preheated it to a pretty high temperature. Always reset your timer, which is what I should have done 10 seconds ago. And a lot of times guys will let their roaster, especially on the single wall drums, allow the heat to be off for about a half minute, 45 seconds or so, just so that the temperature absorbs into the bean. We don't feel that's a written law. It's just something some roasters do. You can choose to do it or not to do it. Perhaps in these single wall drums, it's a better idea than in the double wall drums. So as you can see now, it's been about 45 seconds. We have the gas off on our valve, but we're going to hit the igniter button, which ignited the pilot light. Now we're going to slowly turn on all the gas. And because we're doing a minimal roast, I'm going to keep the kPa rather low right now, which is only at 1 kPa, because as you can already see, the temperature is climbing, and it's at 305 degrees, which to me tells me that's too much heat. So I'm going to crank it down to about a half a kPa at the moment. And keep in mind, this is with LPG gas. It's going to be different with natural gas, because natural gas will only register a maximum of about 1.5, at most 1.75 kPa, whereas on LPG you can take it up to as high as 3 on these machines. As you can see, the climb is still pretty good, but the bean temperature is at 289 degrees, so I still feel the climb is too high for my 2 pounds. So I'm going to crank it down to about a quarter, well, about 1/3 of a kPa. As you can see in this roast, it's heated up much faster than I want. So I've cut down the gas. In fact, I'm going to cut off the gas for the moment because with the minimum roast, I charged it probably at too high of a temperature. I probably should have charged it at about 350 and not preheated the drum so hot. So it's actually going into first crack at about 5 minutes, which is way too fast. Let's keep an eye on the front of the roast. Well, you can see the beans. My lighting's not very good in here. And please ignore any smoke you see, because we didn't properly vent out of the building for this test. But anyway, as you can see, the beans are turning nicely. I'm going to go ahead and start checking some samples. We can see it's gone into first crack. There's a little more smoke in the drum than I would like, so I'm going to up the airflow. The bean temperature is about 395. We want it to climb on this to about 4, maybe 420. We're at about 6 3/4 minutes, which, as I mentioned, is much faster of a roast than what I wanted to do. Sometimes when I do these videos, I get distracted and don't pay attention to my roasting. That's another reason why we encourage people to get to know their roaster for a couple weeks before they hook up a computer to Artisan, because if you're like me, you'll start focusing on the monitor, kind of like we do on our smartphones, instead of focusing on what you're doing on the roast, which unfortunately is what I tend to do at times when I'm making videos. So here we are. We've slowed down the speed of the climb. We really climbed the mountain, so to speak, fast. But now we're going much slower. We're at 398 degrees at 7.5 minutes. And so we'll still be able to turn this into about a 9-minute roast. And so it should be pretty decent, but it may have went through the drying phase faster than I wanted it to go through. And it started to go through the mallard phase a lot faster than I wanted it to. But now we're at about 8 minutes, 404 degrees. I like to take my Kenya a little bit darker than some of the other roasts I do, but not real dark. So we'll take it up to about 420 degrees. And we've slowed down the bean temperature pretty good. One thing we did do is increase the airflow. I now have the airflow at about 50%. And so we're at 409 degrees at 8.5 minutes. So we'll end up bringing out a pretty good roast in this. Not as good as I would have if I would have been paying closer attention, which I tend not to do when doing videos. We might even be able to extend this to about a 9.5 minute roast. It's at 413 degrees at 9 minutes. I want to bring it up to about 420. I've bumped up the airflow a little bit more to 60% or 6. It's now actually going into second crack, which is about where I want to drop it, and that's at 413 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the beans. I kick off my gas, turn off the front valve. I'm going to show you the beans here. Hopefully you can see down in here. Turning on the cooling, turning on the mixing arms, and I took that to close to 420 degrees in about 9 minutes and 45 seconds. And so even though I got off with too fast of a climb to begin with, I think I was able to save the roast. And you're going to see in a minute, it's a very even roast, and actually looks really good. Full city plus, went into the beginnings of second crack, which I hope you were able to hear. And so this is just an example of the power behind these machines. Our BC models are the power roasters. Out of all the roasters, if you really want to push through a lot of coffee, these are the machines to get. In the 2017 models, we've increased the power dramatically, so you got to really tone down your, don't want to put your pedal to the metal, so to speak, or turn up your gas too high, or you will over roast. But you're going to see in a second, it's a very even roast. For the roast.